What does it mean to stand on business, and why would we want to do it, and how do you do it? I'll get into the definition a little bit more, but as Bakir said, the context of this conversation is to use that, standing on business, in order to navigate and perhaps even fight imposter syndrome, which we will also define what that is. I want to just say, before I introduce myself and get into all that, that at the end, we'll be sharing vocally. We'll be chit-chatting, and you can unmute and share your thoughts at the end. But until then, feel free to use the chat. If you can, feel free to type away. I won't be able to answer any questions, but talk amongst yourselves, share what's resonating. Yeah. Yeah, feel free to, and also feel free to take notes, like on your own independent behest. You can also tell me if you have any questions in the chat, and then I can scroll back and answer them at the end. Okay, so before I introduce myself, I want to introduce the topic. What does it mean to stand on business? A learner of mine, so I'm an educator, and a learner of mine taught me this terminology. She said, Dom, you got to stand on business. And I was like, what does that mean? And she said, it's essentially taking care of business. So here is the AI definition. It says, it's a slang phrase to follow through on your promises, to handle your responsibilities, and to match your actions to your words. So walk the walk, don't just talk to the talk. Handle the priority. So what does that have to do with imposter syndrome? Well, a mentor of mine that I'm really, really happy to say is a mentor of mine. I think I can say that. I don't know. She can tell me if I can't say that. Is Arlan Hamilton, and she's an entrepreneur, an investor, an author, and a multimillionaire. And she says imposter syndrome is a waste of our time. We cannot dilly-dally and be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And so because of that, I'm not going to post that post. Or, oh, I'm uncertain if this is really that good, so I'm not going to take this action. Or, oh, I'm really feeling scared that they don't like what I'm doing, so I'm not going to do the thing that I know is right for me. Insecurity. Imposter syndrome is essentially when you don't understand why you have a seat at the table. You don't, you think you're a little bit of a clown, which is why I put this lady in a box with a clown hat on her. You think you're a joke. I want to just say here, everybody struggles with this. And I was at an event yesterday where Arlan Hamilton spoke. It's nice to see people on camera. Hey, everyone. Hello. If anyone else wants to join the camera game, you're more than welcome to. Anyway, I was hearing Arlan Hamilton speak yesterday in person in New York City. It was very exciting. And she talked about how when she was in a room of literal winners, they had won a competition, a very big competition. They all got together, they got an in-person event. She said that her number one takeaway, or one of her takeaways, was that everyone in there was like, oh, but I did this? Like, how? So it's normal. Everyone struggles with it, is my point with that. Introductions. Who am I? Right. My name is Dominique. I am an educator since 2010. I've worked with at least 1,000 learners in my career, and over the 15 years it's been now, or yeah, almost 16 years. I have my master's in education, and I'm also the founder of Off the Beaten Path Learning, LLC, and we provide one-on-one education for neurodivergent teenagers. And I want to plug it Now I'm going to plug it at the end too, just really quickly. If you're a parent, if you know someone who's a neurodivergent or disabled teenager, thank you, Bakir. That website is tricky, by the way, so be patient with it because I have to troubleshoot. Neurodivergent teenagers, Off the Beaten Path Learning empowers learners to choose for themselves. And it's all about empowerment, and that's part of what I'm doing here today as well. Okay. One of my learners, I also want to plug this. One of my learners is doing a photo book. She's a photographer, and she's doing her first photo book. And these are her photos that she took herself around the country of the United States. She went on a cross-country trip, and so you can donate to her work, and I'll show this at the end again, but there's a QR code to donate, and I'll share the link as well. Okay, cool. So let's get into it. I'm going to just shake my body a little bit. How do you handle the priority? And how do you believe in your ability to keep doing that? I just want to share a little bit of transparency here that where I stand is that I myself identify as a neurodivergent and disabled person, and it used to be a struggle for me to be consistent or show up to much of anything. And these are this is a vision board on the left, and on the right is kind of the result of that vision board. And I got 4 out of the 5 things done I wanted to do in Q4. So I'm just sharing a little bit of kind of just like personal credibility as to what I've found works with fighting imposter syndrome, which everyone struggles with, through standing on business and handling the priority. Okay. So what does that mean? What is one word for handling the priority, I think could be, oh, I love this question. Thank you. I will get to that. I think of proof as standing on business. Like if you stand on business, you develop proof. So I'm kind of using that interchangeably. So you can fight imposter syndrome through standing on business, through proof. And that happens, and this is what we're going to go through, courageously, honestly, and compassionately. Courageously, honestly, and compassionately. And so the courageous part is the mindset. It's the belief that I can. That's the courage. And we'll go through some exercises where I'll give you a minute to really independently think about some stuff. And then the honesty and compassion is what I'll just share quickly at the end, some kind of scientific neuroscience, and also just like business. It's not science, but what shows up, this graph, you see the business cycle, that's part of the honesty, is like recognizing that there will be lows, that there will be dips, and that's all there is to that. Every time you see that hourglass in the corner, it'll be an interactive time. So first things first, to be courageous, I want us to think about the imposter syndrome for a split second. And we're going to do something that I learned as a part of being a trauma-informed educator, is that when you go through trauma, especially in childhood, it wires your brain in a certain way. And what you can do to rewire in a more appropriate way is you can shake off, you can literally shake your body while thinking about the thing you want to rewire. And by moving your body, you're telling your brain, this needs to also move. So this is the activity I want to recommend. But I also want a disclaimer that if you feel physically uncomfortable or you cannot shake, because I do say vigorously shake, but if you cannot do that for like health reasons, please hold back or find an adjusted way to do this. So first, we're going to literally shake off the nonsense of imposter syndrome that is not helpful. Okay, so number one, I want you to think about how unhelpful it is to waste time not believing in yourself. I want you to get mad. And I want you to, I feel it right now. I feel it on my skin. Feel it on you like dirt for like 3 seconds. Turn off the camera if you would like. I actually think I'm going to do this myself. And then, if helpful, right? And then just like, I want you to shake, like as powerfully. Put your arms up if you want to put your arms up, and think about that thing that you're like, this is what I, this is how not believing in myself is not helpful, and I'm not going to do it. Okay. So we're kind of like releasing and setting a clear base to be courageous here. Uh, okay. Now, blank slate, where do we go from here? First things first, have the end in mind. Layla Ali said this. I also saw her speak. A learner's mom invited me to this event. I had no idea she was going to be there. I didn't even know what I was going to. I showed up. I was, anyway, whatever. It's a different story. Um, she was there. She spoke, and I didn't know who she was, truthfully. I knew her father. Hello, Muhammad Ali. Hello. But she is also a world champion boxer. Um, and she said the first thing out of her mouth, she was on stage, and the question was like, what would you advise to people in business and content creation and freelancers and such like that? She said, have the end in mind. Have the end in mind to start, and have it in mind as you go along the way, because in order to complete whatever it is, you need to know where you're going. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take a minute. But Kier, could you? No, I got it. I got this. I got this. I'm going to pull up a timer, and we're going to take a minute to name our big goal. This could be like, my big goal is to empower through choice. So I'm going to set a timer and mute myself and think about, you could think about it in a list of things you really want, or just what is your ultimate biggest goal you have? If it's not your lifetime, what's just the biggest goal you have? 45 seconds. Feel free to also share it in the chat if you feel comfortable doing so. Okay. All right. Let me get back to the slides. I was on the timer. Name your big goal. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up if, like, how are we doing just generally in this workshop? If you're on camera, are we feeling good about this workshop so far? Okay. 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 Okay, cool. Okay. So once you have your end in mind, this is, whoa, aye. You need to focus. Like thank you, Anto. The only way that you can, thank you, Connor, for pointing that out. I just want to quickly speak to Connor in the chat directly. That off the beaten path site is persnickety. I'm going to talk you through it after this. I'm going to talk you through it. I'm going to email you personally. We're going to figure it out. Okay. Focusing is so important. And so knowing your priority at any given time Priority literally means prior, right? So it's the first thing you're doing right now. And so it's temporary. Um, and this means that it could be a day, it could be an hour, it could be a week, a month, quarter, year, whatever, but it's temporary. So we're going to take another minute and we're going to think about what is my focus? What is my next focus? My current focus. What am I focusing for right now? And I encourage you to name the amount of time, even if it's approximate. Like for the next quarter, for me, this is a good example. The month of January, I'm working on systematizing off the beaten path learning, putting in operations, putting in SOPs, documenting all the stuff that already naturally happens, but it's just floating around like tentacles. That's the month of January. That's the priority for the month of January. Other things are not getting done during that time. I'm saying no to other stuff because I'm saying yes to this. So I'm going to put on the timer and you can share it in the chat if you'd like. Name your one current priority. All right. And we're back. Yeah, I miss TV. I wonder if anyone here is too young for TV. I mean, like TV when there wasn't Netflix. Sorry, this is completely a tangent. Let's move on. So, part of how you're going to focus, part of how you're going to get through those hard days is knowing what is in your briefcase. Um, I I generated this image on ChatGPT, by the way, which I think is incredible and very strange. Um, so we're going to give ourselves another minute of independent, quiet thinking. What you're going to put in your briefcase of expertise, your proof, right? What you're going to be able to pull out and use on your priority and use to get to your standing on business. How are you going to stand on business? You're going to know what it is that you're standing on. So for this activity, we're going to write three. You can, for your goals, you could break down, if you have that one clear, crystal clear North Star, I would break it down into like three tasks perhaps to get to that goal, or three goals after that priority is taken care of, however you want to think of it. And by the way, if you want to just name your one singular goal, I support that, fully support that and respect that. You're also going to name three things you're highly interested in, you're passionate about, and you're also going to name at least three strengths. And get creative with this. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be I'm fit and strong, or I'm musically gifted. I mean, I guess my point is just it can be a wide variety of things. I'm good with people. I have good friendships. Great cook, which I'm personally not. So I'll put the timer on for this. I'm especially curious to hear people's strengths in the chat. If anyone, it's a hard question, but we have 50 seconds on the clock, so. All right, cool. So we got our briefcase. It's packed. Now guess what? Now you fall down, fall flat on your face. Your briefcase was cool, but not cool enough because you had a bad day. What I'm trying to say here is be honest in advance, which is to say that acknowledge that you will fail and that there will be lows and that this is in fact an opportunity and a beautiful thing. Especially in the world of like doing things on your own, I think, and putting something out into the world, the business cycle is such that like it starts off and you're like, oh, this is cool. This is kind of hard, but it's really great. And then it gets better, and then it gets way scary and worse. And you're like, how am I gonna get through this? But you keep going. If it's worthwhile, you keep going. And to determine if it's worthwhile can be difficult, but honesty helps with that. So be honest about those times when you fall down, when you mess up, when you get it wrong. Everyone is different in this situation. For some people, it is better to lean more heavily on compassion, and lean more like instead of tough love, more compassionate support. For some people, that is what helps them to be more resilient. I personally am not one of those people. I like to prepare for the absolute worst. I like to really face whatever it was that I failed at, whatever it was that I did wrong. I need to look at it very, very closely for me to get back up in a stronger way. And going back to the courage, what does courage mean? It means knowing your big goal, because if we don't know what we're being courageous for, we're going to flounder. We need to anchor it. If you're like saving, I think if you're in a crisis situation, saving a person from dangerous situation, there's a purpose there. And so anchor to that purpose, anchor to that goal. Have a goal higher than yourself, bigger than just you. Arlan Hamilton is a perfect example of that. She was talking about this just yesterday. She was saying, when it was really, really hard, she was homeless. She lived in an airport for like 3 months or something. And she's spent most of her life housing insecure. And so it got really tough after already being tough for a long time. And she did not give up. She was like in a parking lot somewhere and she had this epiphany and she was like, this is not about me. And that's why she had the courage. But she had the end in mind. And then she also knew what she was focusing on in that moment. And she stayed focused until she got that done and the next thing done and the next thing done. Okay, I'm going to go through compassion really quickly. And then I think actually we're not going to just have time for gratitudes. I think we'll have time for Q&A. So I'd love to have a little bit of a discussion at the end, not just sharing what we're grateful for, but maybe like questions that came up during this. Feel free to put those in the chat so we can come back to them. Okay. So on staying focused. Some people are very, very disciplined, but they are still people. I heard an interview with Jocko Willink, and he was like, yes, I eat cookies. Jocko Willink is a Navy SEAL for those. He wrote Extreme Ownership and something about juxtaposition. I can't remember the other one. Dichotomy of Leadership. Maybe that's it. He's an author and a Navy SEAL, I believe. And he's just he's all about grit. He speaks a lot about grit. And I use him as an example because you can think you're focusing and that's great, but be compassionate because at the end of the day, we are primates. Robert Sapolsky is a neuroscientist, among other things. He's also he studies stress. And he wrote this book called Behave, where he talks about willpower is kind of a joke, is kind of the thesis of his book. No, I don't think he would. I think maybe he would disagree with how I said that. But that's how I took it, essentially. And it's about how we're affected by so much context around us, what we ate that day, our parents, what they were eating when they were pregnant. Like a lot of things affect us. Other people affect us, especially if you're neurodivergent or disabled. Forget about it. The stimulation will like take you out. So you have to, my point here is be compassionate and understanding. Compassion is simply understanding. Be understanding that, and this goes hand in hand with the honesty about the lows and the dips, that it'll happen, that it's okay, that we're not as in control as we would like to be. It does not mean that you're an imposter. It does not mean that you're not courageous. Understand that you're a human, that you're a primate, and that's just that. Okay, so this is a summary. How do you stand on business? How do you stand on business so that you don't feel like an imposter? You handle the priority and you believe in your ability. And how do you handle your priority and believe in your ability? Stand on business through courage, honesty, and compassion. Go back to the big goal, go back to your focus, be honest about the times that are low, and understand that that's going to happen.